Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Minter, and I'm going to discuss the Los Peñasquitos Lagoon. Um, the Los Peñasquitos Lagoon is just south of Del Mar, California. It's about 500 acres of wetlands, included in this Torrey Pines State Natural Reserve. So what we wanted to do today was just go over the lagoon, the historical ecology of it. And I wanted to talk about first the people and the events that have helped shape the lagoon into what it is today. So prior to European contact, the Kumeyaay Indians lived on the coast and inland San Diego prior to the contact. They inhabited the lagoons that we are all talking about, all the North County lagoons. The settlements went as far north as Oceanside, all the way south to Ensenada, Mexico, as well as into East County, San Diego, too. There's evidence of Kumeyaay settlements as far back as 12,000 years ago, so the land's been worked and utilized by humans for quite some time. And the Kumeyaay at one point inhabited what is now Torrey Pines Reserve. From 1769 to 1821, we had the Spanish Mission era. This was when European exploration, specifically Spanish exploration, went to California, mainly for religious purposes. The mission San Diego de Alcala was established in 1769. This was the first mission established in California. Los Peñasquitos Canyon and the lagoon were called Los Soledad Valley at that time, and this was used by residents of the mission to raise crops. The Kumeyaay were forced to convert religions during this time and also relocate to the mission for labor purposes at the mission. This time also showed the introduction of horses, cattle, new construction methods, and different agricultural goods into the area. And the Spanish control ended in 1821 and came to the Mexican period, which lasted from 1821 to 1848. So this was when Mexico became independent from Spain. At this time, the Rancho Los Peñasquitos grant was granted to Francisco Maria Ruiz in 1823. This was the first land grant given during the Mexican period. And this land grant included the Los Peñasquitos Canyon. The land grant was expanded to Los Peñasquitos Lagoon after secularization of the missions happened in 1834. This land was then bought by the Ruiz's nephew, Francisco Alvarado, in 1837. And this period saw Los Peñasquitos Canyon and parts of the lagoon used for raising cattle. And there is still evidence by fence post barbed wire that you can see in the area. And this is just a map showing the land grants that were given out in San Diego County during that time. And you can see you have Torrey Pines Park listed there near Del Mar, and also the Rancho San Bernardino, and you can see Ranchos Los Peñasquitos in there too. The Mexican-American War happened in 1846 to 1848. California was ceded to the United States from Mexico. During this time, also gold was found in the Sierra Nevadas in 1849, and the ranching in Los Peñasquitos Canyon and Lagoon was pretty lucrative because miners would use cow hides and tallow and all sorts of byproducts during that time. After the 1850s, ranching declined in the area due to drought, disease, and different uses for the land. Some events that occurred that have impacted the lagoon are the railroad expansion that occurred. And Santa Fe Railroad was constructed through the lagoon in 1925, creating the embankment you see in the background there. This is still used in the San Diego Coaster, and the Pacific Surfliner still use this track. And as you can see, this embankment that was built, it goes directly over the lagoon, and this affected the drainage and tidal flow systems of the lagoon. It essentially had to move the inlet southward from its original location because of this embankment. Another event that occurred is the Pacific Coast Highway, the construction of the Pacific Coast Highway. So this was, the highway was expanded in 1930 to include the bridge that you saw just a minute ago. And there were wood pilings that held up this bridge, and this actually caused the tidal flow to be impacted because the pilings were clogging the drainage of the system. So this caused more impacted tidal flow throughout the lagoon, but a new bridge was built in 2005 and this removed the pilings. And as you can see, you only have 4 pilings. This opens up the mouth and is easier to maintain. And the last event I wanted to talk about was the North Beach parking lot, and this was constructed and finished in 1968. This was a fully paved parking lot, and this also altered the hydrology and the water circulation of the lagoon as well.
Hi guys, my name is Isaac Vasquez, and what interested me the most about the Los Peñasquitos Lagoon was the enhancement plan that was originally developed and certified in 1985. The Lagoon Enhancement Plan implemented management of the tidal circulation by more mechanical processes that help dig out sand and sediment that block the inlet area. This is the area that is in contact with the ocean, where the water flows in and out from. The enhancement plan was also responsible for ensuring short and long-term goals, as well as more biological and ecological research. Due to the expansion of urban and residential areas near the lagoon, an updated enhancement plan was set into effect in 2018. The final plan included intentions to preserve, protect, and enhance native habitats, species, water quality, public health, climate change, and local education. Next slide, please. A phased approach regarding enhancement plans was established to present a more broken down timeline of expectations and goals of the community to enhance the area and maximize its potential. This approach was added to the final 2018 update of the Los Peñasquitos Enhancement Plan. The driving process of this approach was stakeholder involvement. From 2012 through April 2013, 6 local workshops were held in order to involve stakeholders and include their goals as well as inputs for the future of the lagoon. Local residents, landowners, nonprofit organizations, and regional planning members make up the body of participants that would evaluate, analyze, and interpret our interactions with the lagoon, as well as the naturally occurring incidents, in order to develop some sustainable goals. Next slide, please. Despite the plans that were set to restore and protect the lagoon, it was unfortunately placed under the Environmental Protection Agency's Clean Water Act as an impaired body of water, with public health being the main concern. During the inlet closures of spring and summer, the water is a major breeding point for mosquitoes that could carry illnesses. The Clean Water Act of the EPA was originally established in 1948 as the Federal Water Pollution Control Act, but in 1972, it became the Clean Water Act, which was set to implement pollution control programs that prevented illegal dumping or discharge into the waters without a permit. Man-made infrastructures such as Highway 101 and the Santa Fe Railroad have impacted the hydrodynamics of the lagoon. Preservation of the lagoon's salt marsh became prioritized due to its ability to capture and store large amounts of carbon from the atmosphere, carbon dioxide, that is. The realize of the importance of this local lagoon and its impact to the environment is not only critical, but essential. Thankfully, plans have been set into place and are still being carried out to this day.
Hello, class. My name is Brian Kirkmeyer. As we look into the more natural impacts on the lagoon, we see every day the tides come in and out, and with that, tidal circulation happens. It's one of the most important everyday occurrences that the lagoon has. Oxygen levels, salinity levels, and temperature levels are all impacted with the tidal circulation. As we saw earlier, the embankment from the railroad crossing, the wood pilings, these all played an effect with the tidal circulation in a negative way. Thankfully, the wood pilings were actually worked on and made better over time. Next slide, please. So we look into the streams and rain. There's 3 main streams that flow into the lagoon. One of the streams is the Carmel Creek. It comes in from the north through the Carmel Valley. The Los Peñasquitos and the Carroll Creek run through a few canyons first, then they run through the Sereno Valley, which then flows into the lagoon from the south side. These streams and creeks, they're widespread around 95 square miles surrounding the actual area of the lagoon. So it comes in from quite a distance and is impacted from a lot of different elements through those streams and creeks. Urbanization around the area has increased tremendously. We see more sediment and more water coming into this lagoon, and it's heavily impacted by the humans. When we took the trip down to the lagoon itself, we saw lots and lots of people. The surrounding areas had restaurants, different buildings, housing. This all plays into effect with the sediment flow and the water flow into the actual lagoon itself. Next slide, please. So as we look back into the Native American times, this was more than just a lagoon that was there for no reason. These Native Americans depended on food sources in this lagoon. Food sources such as rays, sharks, fish. They all depended on this to make a wealthy living and a healthy living for themselves and to feed them. Next slide, please. So as we look way back into the lagoon changes in the early time, when the sea levels were rising, around 6,000 BP it was transforming into a more deep water embayment. Around 4,000 BP, it became more of a sandy beach surrounding the area of the lagoon. And then in 3,000 BP, the brackish marsh appeared, and eventually in 2,800 BP, the salt marsh was there as well. These are just a few of the examples of the sensitive wildlife that we have here in this lagoon. The brown pelican, the red diamond rattlesnake, the Belding savanna sparrow, they're all just a few examples. I thought it was very interesting that there was actually the red diamond rattlesnake. We did not see this on our trip to the actual lagoon itself, but all these have a major impact in the lagoon itself. Also, all these species in the lagoon are either endangered or protected on the federal level to keep them there and preserve them in this lagoon.
Hello everyone, and my name is Clifford Aceto. As we review how human impact has affected the Los Peñasquitos Lagoon, how much have we transformed it from its original state? Initially, the Los Peñasquitos Lagoon was classified as a coastal salt marsh, and the inlets that connect the lagoon to the ocean were always open year-round, allowing for a path of open water to flow both into the ocean or back into the lagoon. However, the nature of human development has been such as the construction of the city of Del Mar, the railroads of 1888 and 1925, and the Pacific Coast Highway have changed the way that the lagoon has shaped its territory. Over the past 150 years, we see a drastic change in the distribution of habitats. To the northwest, where open water once flowed to the ocean, it has since been developed into the city of Del Mar, and the open water has since been outsourced further down south of its original exit point. In the center, there's historically a history of salt flats which is seasonally flooded. However, in the present day, the amount of space the salt flat occupies is down to a mere fraction of what it used to be. And to the east, the area had the largest amount of salt marsh within the area. But in the present day, the amount of storm runoff and sewage from developed areas of San Diego have overrun it with freshwater and brackish wetlands. Well, we perhaps see these developments as negative, as it doesn't necessarily lead them to be permanent. In 1985, the restoration plan, as previously stated, was initiated to help restore and protect the Los Peñasquitos Lagoon. Projects such as the images you see here from 2006-2008 are a fraction of these efforts in motion to help restore natural salt marsh and other habitats. As an organization, the Los Peñasquitos Lagoon Foundation was originally created in 1983. As a nonprofit organization, it works alongside other state agencies, such as the Torrey Pines State Reserve, in order to better protect this land that was used historically and dated back to 20,000 years. Though it is not only for these reasons that we protect lands such as the lagoon. Even today, we still rely on the many natural resources it provides, and recreation such as the state beach, and as well as hiking. To this day, we still rely on on nature, so their significance must be preserved for generations to come. This concludes the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.